To those of you joining us today, thank you for watching the Woburn Spotlight. I'm your host, Tyler Gates, here to bring you some positivity by talking to those in town, making big strides for the greater good. Today, I'm really fortunate to have with me Mark Altman from Mindset Go. Mark, thank you for joining us.
Tyler, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. So we've connected a few times now. I'm lucky enough to know a little bit about your backstory. But do you mind just sharing a little bit about you and a little bit about your organization for our viewers that are new today?
Sure, yeah. You know, Tyler, I think my story is interesting in the sense that I've been on both sides of the spectrum. You know, I was at a point in my life when I was younger, 21 years old, where I was at rock bottom. You know, I had kids at a very young age, wasn't prepared at 23 years old, had a gambling addiction, had filed for bankruptcy, was on food stamps, really was at a dark place, and my own fault. Right? Like I have nobody to blame. It's like it wasn't like I had a bad family upbringing or something like that where I had somebody to blame. It was my own fault. And so, but I really developed and focused on developing the skills so I could support my kids and be a good dad and be a good role model. And so I really made the determination at that point that I loved, when I didn't have those support systems when I was younger, I wanted to, you know, have my career evolve where I could be a support system and a mentor and a coach for other people because I know what it was like to be there. And on the other end of the spectrum, I grew my first business to the point where we were on the Inc. 500, 5,000 list consecutive years of fastest privately held businesses in the country. Was fortunate enough to sell that business. And then about 4 years ago, started my company now, which is Mindset Go. And Mindset Go, the name is intentional. I really believe, Tyler, that everything in life is based on your personal and professional happiness and success is based on your mindset and your attitude. And so I'll get more into what we do, but that's the opportunity to help professionals, teachers, students, parents, entrepreneurs. That's my passion.
So you're out there to help and you give. I know you a little bit better, like I said, than maybe the viewers do. And you're a giver from what I can see. And one of the things that you left me with from our past conversation that resonated really strongly with me, Mark, was the fact that every night before you hit the pillow, you think about what you could have done better that day, not just in your own personal life, but to help your clients excel. Before this interview started, you were talking about how can I help this one client take their business, not even their just business, but their mindset to the next level to help them excel personally and professionally. And that really resonated with me. So do you mind elaborating a little bit about the name, Mindset Go, and kind of where that stemmed from?
Yeah, so honestly, Tyler, I'm so happy you asked that because it's probably, if not my favorite topic, one of my top 2 or 3. So I'm a youth sports coach, and so I was just having this conversation with a bunch of high school athletes the other day. I said to them, how do you know when you finish the game if you were successful? Because I think most people don't really have that self-assessment template. And frankly, that's what growth mindset is all about. It's about not measuring the result, it's about measuring the effort, right? So these athletes looked at me, so if it was a baseball pitcher, they said, well, I either didn't give up any runs or I gave up very few runs. And I said, but wait a minute. I said, that's a results driven. What happens if you gave up 6 runs, but they were all bloop singles? Or what happens if you gave up no runs, but you were just facing a weak team? I mean, there's so many variables in play. So the point I'm trying to make is that having a growth mindset, it takes so much discipline to not associate your happiness and success with a result versus an attitude or a habit or a behavior to get there. Mm-hmm. And if you, honestly, Tyler, if you were to go ask 10 people out of the street when you leave here today and say, what is your self-assessment template for knowing whether you're doing well at your job, at your marriage, as a dad, as a mom, I think most people will look at you like, I have no idea.
The report card stops at grade 12, college, whatever you want to call it. But
that's it.
How do we measure? How do we track?
Right. So, and I think the way we track, and I'll give you a very tangible example of how we track.
Please do.
And I'll give you one example in school and one example in sports. If it's sports, if you're a baseball player and your coach keeps telling you that the reason why you're struggling at bat is because you're not shifting your weight on your back foot, if someone says they're trying their best, that means when they go out there, they're being mindful of that habit, and when they walk up to bat, they're thinking, okay, I got to shift my weight on my back foot. If you're in school and all of a sudden you get 3 good grades in a row and the 4th grade comes off bad, you flunk a test, you don't sit there and say, well, I better change my process, because you believe you have a process that you think works. So it's the process, it's the habit that gets you there. And so from a studying perspective, from a communication perspective, to me, it really comes down to believing you're going to be successful, which doesn't guarantee it, but it gives you a chance.
Gives you that chance
It gives
that
you the
we
chance.
desperately need in
That's
this
right.
life.
That's right.
Interesting, interesting. So what is the mission? What is your vision? What do you hope to accomplish under the Mindset Go campaign? Not necessarily campaign, but you know where I'm going with that.
There are programs. So I think our mission is this. I know our mission is this. So when someone says, what does Mindset Go do? My initial answer is we build people up. And what I mean by that is I see that there are 3 ingredients that you need in communication. One of them is skills. Where are you falling short in your skills? To be successful, you have to build relationships with people. You have to know how to build relationships with people. Comment I make, Tyler, a lot is, if someone has I'd rather work with someone who has a higher EQ than IQ, because that emotional intelligence factor guides you to build relationships with people. So the skills that you need to be successful professionally and personal are all around relationship building. And I love supporting people's ability to connect and interact with others. The second piece is confidence. Confidence is very fleeting. And you know, Tyler, when you own, as an entrepreneur yourself, you know whether you're in sales or you have your own business or you're in customer service or whatever, if you're a professional services person, you know that there's a lot of peaks and valleys. And so when you get to the point, you could be the most talented and confident person in the world, but when you face adversity and when you face those valleys, how do you cope with it? Do you get in a slump? Do you fall out of focus for weeks at a time? That's a big area we help people, the resiliency aspect in building that confidence. And the third thing is, as I mentioned before, is shifting the mindset. And I believe, Tyler, that the key to shifting people's mindset is not telling them how to do things or why they should do things. Let them come to those conclusions on their own so they recognize their passion, their purpose, their why. And that's what we do.
Interesting. Develop that why.
Yeah. Simon Sinek has a great TED Talk about the why.
I love that one.
Yeah,
the 3 circle model.
Yes.
What we do, how we do it, why we do it.
Yes, and so a big part of my training philosophy is I teach people how to do motivational interviewing, which is not like job interviewing. Motivational interviewing is the ability to get people to embrace and feel comfortable with change and to get people to come to conclusions on their own. And Tyler, if you think about it, one of the biggest problems I think we solve, and it's kind of weird, is we never escape hierarchy. When you're a kid, you have to take orders from your parent. When you're in school, you have to take orders from a teacher. When you grow up, you have to take orders from a boss. So you're constantly being told what to do and how to do it. And motivational interviewing removes the hierarchy and teaches you how to be on the same level as another human being and influence the decisions, get them comfortable with change, but not in a hierarchy way, in a relatable awareness kind of way.
That's a valuable resource for many organizations, I'm sure, right? That corporate hierarchy that essentially, whether it's right, wrong, different, that's not for me to decide, but you get stuck in a rut. It's hard to get to a certain level where people feel relatable and comfortable.
Yeah, and I think one other quick point I would add to that is one of my favorite things to teach is perception. And so perception is everything, right? So Tyler, when you walk into a room, just like when I walk into a room, if I'm in professional services and I have a shirt and tie on, people might be starting to make judgments and assumptions on who I am and what my goals are just because I'm dressed like a professional. When you walk, if you're a student in school and you dress sloppy and you have tattoos all over you, right or wrong, people are going to make those perceptions. And so what I love about emotional intelligence is self-awareness, self-regulation, relationship awareness, how people are going to react to you, how people are going to perceive you is so central into your ability to have relationships with people. And I think that's the other big component.
So you're doing a lot out there, Mark, and I'd love to just kind of dive in because we could spend probably the whole time talking about why you came up with Mindset Go, the name, and kind of what you're doing for individuals. So let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes. What have you done for past events? How have you helped individuals in the greater Woburn and local communities? I know you do a lot, so feel free to touch upon on any topics you want to kind of steer this direction.
Sure. I would say that I'll focus on 2 or 3 things.
Yes.
One is we have a program that we just finished at Lowell High School, and it's called Mindset Career Path. And the idea behind Mindset Career Path is there's a lot of focus when kids are in high school and college, when they go to like a career center at college or they have a guidance department in high school, you get taught like interview skills, how to dress, show up on time. There's a lot of what I would consider generic things. What I'm trying to teach high school and college students in Mindset Career Path is not just how to get there, but how to be successful once you already are there. So if you go in an office job, you don't know how to deal with office dynamics around problem solving and critical thinking and conflict resolution. So the Mindset Career Path really arms students for post-high school opportunities in college or jobs. And for college students, it's a program that allows them to differentiate themselves and stand out. So when they go to get those jobs when they graduate, they know how to sell themselves and get people to buy into them. Another thing we've done very recently is we have a program called 6 Degrees of Communication. And 6 Degrees of Communication is a program that I do for companies where it talks about 6 fundamental communication skills that are needed. Active listening, influence building, decision making, how to read, interpret, and respond to body language. And those are some examples. But the 6 degrees of communication are what I consider some of the most fundamental interpersonal skills you need to be successful. So those are a couple of examples. You know, one of my passion areas is we do a lot of parenting workshops.
Yeah, that was one thing we focused on a lot in our last conversation together. I'm excited for you to bring that back up. Yeah,
we actually have a parenting workshop coming up tomorrow night at the Commonwealth Learning Center in Danvers. We have one next week in Wayland we're doing. And the parenting workshops are a passion for me, Tyler, because there really isn't a lot of support systems for parents. I mean, there's PTOs and there's moms groups and there's things like that. But we have the one we're doing coming up, which is probably my favorite, is called Navigating the College Process. And most people, when they think of navigating the college process, is financial aid and test prep and SAT scores and getting good grades and extracurricular activity and where am I going to go and how am I going to decide? And to me, that's a piece of it. What we talk about in this workshop, in all our we don't lecture, these are hands-on where parents are interacting and problem solving. What we talk about in this workshop is that there's so much emotion and maturity and change going on for parents and kids those last 2 years of high school. How are you going to cope with that? How are you going to deal with that? How are you going to have the conversations so your kids feel comfortable telling you what's making them anxious and stressful? How are you going to have those conversations so you're not putting your own agenda as a parent and letting that interfere with your child's happiness? And so those are things people think about because they're not obvious, but they're there for everybody. So anyway, so that's a little bit of a snapshot about some of the programs we do.
You don't know what you don't know as a parent or as an individual in life, let's call it.
Agreed.
But, yeah, that's got to be powerful leading up because I would be in that first basket of people. You know, when how do you prepare for college? I would have checked all those boxes that you initially mentioned. So, interesting. So you're working on those 3 big dynamics, right? The mindset career path, the 6 degrees of communication, parenting workshops. Those are very different focuses on who you're getting in front of as well. So you have quite the depth and breadth of programs, talks that you're able to do. What do you do in your free time? What do you do outside of the working world, Mark? Tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into maybe what's next for you.
Well, I'll tell you, I will. Can I make one other comment, Tyler, if it's okay?
This is your interview, my friend. Go. So, which way are we going?
Well, no, I just want to add something to you just said, because I thought you made a great observation. And I think a lot of times people tell me, you know, how are you able to, you know, speak with parents one day, go into schools the next day, train a sales team the next day? And I wanted to say something about this because it doesn't matter how old people are. The way you treat people, the way you connect with people, the way you get, the fundamentals and the principles are all the same. And that's one of the reasons I'm able to serve so many audiences, because the curriculum and the concepts don't change. The situations and the role plays and the simulations change, but the concepts don't change.
Okay.
So that's why I'm able to get away with it, I think. What do I do in my free time? I am a huge sports fan.
Yeah?
I am a freelance sports writer for Associated Press. I cover the Boston sports teams. Love it.
With all your free time.
With all my free time. And I'm a youth sports coach. I coach baseball and basketball. I have 3 kids. I have 1 in college, 1 working, and I have a 5th grade son. And honestly, Tyler, I don't know. Sports and music are my biggest passions. And anytime I'm not working or being involved in sports, I'm spending time with my kids. So.
And the reason I ask is you're very involved in your family's lives, the sports world, and I think that gives a very relatable moment, because you have the quote-unquote skin in the game. You're in a very similar situation to the people you're helping support, get in the right mind frame, let's call it. So I had to pause there and kind of go that route for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, that's good. I think it's always good to know the person a little bit more as well. So, future events. You said you have a couple parenting workshops. Where do you want to focus your efforts moving forward? Do you want to be in front of colleges, high schools? Are you continuing to blossom and grow each segment of the Mindset Go business? Where do we stand right now, Mark?
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic question, Tyler. The challenge is, so as far as future events, next week we're doing an event. Next Wednesday we're doing an event at the Workstation in Cohasset, doing a training. The next day we're doing a motivational interviewing training at the Worcester Chamber.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of events. If you go on the Mindset Go website, our event calendar is usually pretty up to date. With that said, it's a quandary for me. I'll be honest with you, Tyler. I mean, my passion around helping students and parents and teachers, it's really my number one passion. But unfortunately, paying the bills, a lot of that stuff is funded through grants and things like that. So my focus and growth area is really helping people with emotional intelligence, helping people influence decisions, results in other people, and really improving their ability to present themselves and how they come across and how they're perceived. I say those are my areas.
That brings up a good point. How do people differentiate themselves, advocate for themselves in such an interesting, fast-paced environment that we live in now?
They mostly don't. They don't. As far as advocating for themselves, I have to share a very brief anecdote. I was playing in a men's softball league Sunday, and we got killed, and our team must have made a dozen errors. And I was watching a lot of my teammates come off the field, and most of them wouldn't take accountability for their errors. They would actually make an excuse. Oh, that took a bad hop or whatever. And I just said to myself, it's amazing. You talk about advocating for yourself, Tyler. It's amazing. People are so scared to speak up for what they want and need, because it's in our society, it's a reflection of weakness when they do that. And just like taking accountability for a mistake you made, it's like, oh, then I must not be as strong as another person is good. And it really breaks my heart. I mean, I really choose those words because that's an area, when I talk about confidence, helping people build the confidence to advocate for themselves, to accept responsibility, to know it's not a reflection of who you are as a bad individual. If anything, it's the opposite. When you have those skills and you can advocate for what you need and want, and you can take accountability and responsibility for your behavior, that's looked upon a lot better than worse in the flip side. So I think that component of the self-advocacy is very good. And it was 2 things. You asked me about self-advocacy. What was the second thing?
Differentiating themselves and professionally or personally.
The differentiation piece to me is something I'm obsessively compulsive about. I literally think about it every day. You have to think about what makes you unique. I don't care whether you're a high schooler trying to get into college trying to get your dream job, professional trying to transition your career, professional services person to stand out against all your competition. And I gotta tell you, Tyler, people just don't know how to do it. And everybody gets caught up in hearing their own pitch and their own words and their own approach. And at the end of the day, being mindful that, is that working? Is that not working? It's a real struggle for people. And you know, I'd say one of my most successful workshops has been one that's called It's You, They Buy. And it's about how to differentiate, how to sell yourself, how to feel confident in what you bring to the table that's actually valuable. So it's a real struggle for people. And I tell you, 90% of the adults I ask, how do you differentiate? They can't answer. Or they answer, but it's fluff, or it's generic.
Okay, that's fair. I think the generic answer comes out across much easier than no answer, right?
Yeah, yes.
So what separates you, Mark? I know there's a couple other coaching style programs out there. Mindset Go is certainly the unique name. What makes you or the organization, or both, frankly, it's kind of one and the same, what makes you so different? What makes you, your platform and your organization different?
Yeah, I'd say there are two fundamental things that make us different. Whenever I speak to companies who talk about, geez, Mark, it sounds great. We'd love to hire you and come in and do some training or speaking or coaching or whatever. Well, so what's the return on investment going to be? This is the question, and it's the right question, right?
It's fair.
Right? It's a fair question.
It's a fair question.
What happens, though, Tyler, is when the question is asked, there's a mindset of, well, how are my revenue going to grow? How is my productivity going to increase? How is the employee satisfaction and retention going to change? And this is what I say every single time. What differentiates what we do is, I will not walk in the door and say your revenue is going to increase 8%. I will walk in the door and tell you that I will motivate and inspire through the skills, strategies, and tools. So when your team leaves the training, they will be motivated to A, apply what they learned immediately and permanently. 2, they will have a core value, much more of a core value on learning than they did going into that training, and will feel comfortable speaking up for what they want and need. So if they are facing adversity or struggling in their career, you'll know about it. And to me, if I'm able to execute those 3 things, then everything else will happen, the revenue, the employee retention.
All follows.
But I don't sell the standard, I do the 3 things I just mentioned.
So how would you encourage, and I think that may have answered my next question, how do these companies track, right? What's their report card when they look for a trainer?
Well, it's a complex question because typically companies will do surveys, pre and post surveys to evaluate
okay,
what
that's
was
fair.
learned.
I was curious how
No, it's a good question. That's one way.
Okay.
They'll value if, like, sometimes companies will bring me in, 3 months and 6 months after the training to do a follow-up brush up to see what skills still need, what's been learned, where the struggles are. But the irony is, our wellness program, our director of wellness, Janice Siwi, she has built a program called Body, Mind, Bottom Line. And ultimately, Tyler, the measurement to me is in the workplace, if you have to balance engagement and employees' passion, and things have changed. It's not the same anymore. It's kind of finding out what the key to your employees' heart is and how to get the most out of them. And I think you have to do that by balancing their mental, physical, and emotional health with productivity and effectiveness and success.
So who can you help the best? I guess the best is a poor choice of words. What's an ideal organization? Well, I know the parenting workshop. Let's stay focused with companies for a moment. Let's keep running with that. How do you find them? How do they find you? What's an ideal relationship look like?
So there's no specific industry. I mean, we do a lot of work in technology and retail and professional services and things like that. But the industry is somewhat irrelevant. If someone were to say to me, Mark, what are 3 questions I should be asking a company to know if they were a fit for you? The first question is, how effective is your team at relationship building? And here, let me give you 2 specifics.
Thanks.
One is customer service. So part of the job of a customer service team is you're trying to leverage the relationships you have with the happy customers. So how are you strengthening those relationships? Not just providing good service, but how are you strengthening and growing those relationships? Second is sales teams, right? Are you just following a generic template, or are you actually becoming the trusted expert? Are you actually learning how to get people to be and believe in you and be motivated, inspired by you? And that's that motivational interviewing element. But the biggest thing, Tyler, really is engagement. So how is your culture? Is everybody on the same page? Is the staff engaged? And if not, why? And I think when we come in, that's where the emotional intelligence, above all, whether it's a sales team, a customer service team, a leadership team, any facet of the company that needs to connect and relate with other human beings or needs to influence and motivate other human beings, we can support. So I don't mean to be so broad, but it's all about teamwork, leadership, sales, customer service. It's those 4 buckets. And if you need to influence and build relationships and present yourself better, we can help anybody in those companies.
So to kind of summarize what you do, and maybe a better way to put it is something to leave our viewers with today. Early on, say somebody sees this and says, I need to make a change, I need to get better at relationship building. Where's a good place, basic place to start? How do you self-evaluate? Maybe again, some of those basic questions. Now we're getting closer to the end of our time together, Mark, and I'd love to hear just that value add. I know if somebody wants to reach out to you, feel free to express how to contact you here as well.
Sure.
But let's leave our viewers with something. I know you'll give us something good.
Yeah, so I think first of all, the way you can reach out to me, certainly mindsetgo.com. It's all one word, so that's one thing. I'm happy to give my cell number because I like to give personal service, so it's 978-793-1159.
Okay.
The bottom line for me is the place to start is I have created assessments, not your typical Myers-Briggs personality assessment, those kind of assessments. Deep root cause questions to really understand where you are, and I call them confident communicator assessments. So whether it's a team at a company, whether it's parents, whether it's teachers, students, whatever, these are assessments that really will tell you where your skill development areas are. So the first thing you could do is contact me. I can send you the link to these assessments just so you can do your own evaluation for that matter.
Self-awareness is huge.
Self-awareness is huge. A second piece is don't be, my message to everybody today is, look, feel comfortable knowing that we're all flawed human beings, okay? So I don't care where you're at in life. A conversation never hurt anybody. So if you're listening to these things today and you're like, wow, emotional intelligence, EQ, I really got to do a better job of self-awareness and relating to people. Or, wow, yeah, I'm really not good at influencing people. People don't really listen to me or trust me or buy into me. If those are the kinds of things you're noticing about yourself, or you don't have a lot of self-confidence around being around other people, those are the questions you should be asking and say, why don't I just have a conversation with Mark? It never hurts. And a conversation never hurts anybody. I don't charge people to have a conversation. So I do this. If I was to leave the viewers with one thought, I'm 46 years old, Tyler. It took me 44 years, I should say, to find my passion and what I love. I wake up every day and I love supporting and helping people who are stuck or want to reach for the stars and maximize their success. So if you need help and you want my support, give me a call, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you.
Thank you for that, Mark. Thank you for your time today. I know I enjoyed it, as always, and I hope our viewers did too.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it, Tyler.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And thank you all for watching today's show with Mark Altman for Mindset Go, founder and operator. We all have one life to live here. Let's all do our part. I'm your host, Tyler Gates. Join us again next time for another episode of the Woburn Spotlight.